Have you ever felt something tugging at the back of your mind? A quiet nudge you can't explain? It's not loud. It doesn't shout. Instead, it's a faint whisper, a fleeting thought that feels both alien and familiar at the same time. Most people dismiss it as imagination, but what if those whispers are not random? What if they are signals from a deeper intelligence, your own future self? These whispers often arrive when you're alone, late at night before sleep, during a quiet walk, or in moments of stillness. They may sound like a suggestion. Don't go there. Wait. The timing isn't right. Or even you're meant for more. It's easy to ignore them because they don't fit into the noise of daily life. Yet those who pay attention know that these whispers are the beginning of transformation. Science tells us the brain processes billions of signals every second, but your conscious mind can only handle a fraction. The rest comes through intuition, dreams, and gut feelings. That little voice, that subtle pull, is how your future self tries to get your attention. Recognizing these first whispers is the key that unlocks the quantum path. Once you begin noticing the whispers, the next step is to see how they manifest in your external world. Life is not as random as it seems. Events, people, and circumstances align in ways too precise to be coincidence. These are subtle patterns, signals woven into the fabric of your daily life. For example, you keep seeing repeating numbers like 1111 or 333. You think of someone and within minutes they call. A book you randomly pick up contains the exact words you needed to hear. These are not accidents. They are synchronicities, breadcrumbs left by your future self to guide you toward alignment. Psychologists often call it confirmation bias, but spirituality calls it divine timing. Either way, the effect is the same. Your attention is drawn toward the path that matters most. The challenge is learning to tell the difference between mere chance and meaningful pattern. When you see subtle patterns repeating with emotional intensity, know that you're not just imagining it. It is the quantum field, arranging reality to match the future you are stepping into. If these signals are everywhere, why don't most people notice them? The answer is distraction. Our world is filled with constant noise. Social media, endless news, daily responsibilities, and the pressure to keep up. These distractions act like static, drowning out the very frequency your future self is broadcasting on. Most people are so conditioned to look outward for answers, seeking validation, following trends, obeying societal scripts, that they forget to listen inward. They expect the signal to come like a thunderclap, a dramatic moment of revelation. But the truth is, it's almost always subtle, quiet, and easily overlooked. The tragedy is that missing these signals keeps people trapped in cycles of repetition. They repeat the same mistakes, attract the same toxic relationships, and wonder why life doesn't change. But the ones who learn to pause, reflect, and listen, they are the ones who evolve. The signal doesn't get louder. You just learn to become quieter, more receptive. At the heart of every whisper and every pattern is one truth. Your future self is calling. Imagine a version of you who has already overcome the struggles you face now. Someone who has grown, healed, and stepped into a higher reality. That version of you exists in the quantum field, and they are reaching back through time, guiding you toward alignment. This is not fantasy, it is physics. Quantum theory suggests that all versions of reality exist simultaneously, and your consciousness chooses which one you collapse into. The call you feel is simply resonance, the vibration of your future self pulling you toward the timeline where you are most fulfilled. Sometimes the call feels exciting, like a burst of inspiration. Other times it feels uncomfortable, pushing you to leave behind comfort zones and false identities. But every time you feel it, you are faced with a choice. Ignore it and remain the same, or answer it and step into transformation. Answering the call does not require massive leaps overnight. It begins with awareness. Noticing the whispers, honoring the patterns, and creating stillness in your life. The more you align, the clearer the signal becomes. And once you respond, life starts to feel less like chaos and more like destiny unfolding. Chapter 2. The science behind quantum signals. Quantum mechanics is often painted as a mysterious, intimidating field, but at its core, it explains the strange rules that govern the smallest particles in our universe. Unlike classical physics, where cause and effect are predictable, quantum mechanics introduces uncertainty, probabilities, and phenomena that defy logic, like particles existing in two states at once. For our audience, this is important because it frames the possibility that our future, present, and even past selves might be more connected than we imagine. To simplify, think of reality as a massive ocean. Each wave represents a possibility, but only one becomes real when observed. This is called the collapse of the wave function. Similarly, your future self could exist as one of these waves, waiting for you to align with it. Quantum mechanics, then, is not just about tiny particles, it's about potential realities. Many spiritual teachers borrow from this science to explain manifestations, synchronicities, and even signals from the universe. Whether or not scientists agree on the spiritual interpretations, the parallels are undeniable. The quantum world behaves in ways that resonate with human experiences of intuition, déjà vu, and unexplainable coincidences. Superposition is one of the most fascinating concepts in quantum mechanics. It means a particle can exist in multiple states simultaneously until measured. Imagine holding a coin that is both heads and tails at the same time. Only when you look at it does it become one or the other. In the context of your life, superposition suggests that multiple versions of your future exist right now. There's a future where you succeeded, one where you failed, one where you took risks, and one where you stayed safe. These futures are coexisting, and your choices act as the observer collapsing the possibility into reality. This is where the signal from your future self comes in. If your consciousness can tap into these probabilities, through intuition, dreams, or synchronicities, you can align with the version of yourself that already has what you desire. Many people describe these moments as gut feelings or serendipity. From a quantum perspective, it may simply be your present self tuning into the frequency of your desired future. In storytelling, this gives us an empowering metaphor. You are not passively waiting for fate. You are an active participant in choosing which version of your future becomes real. Quantum entanglement is another mind-bending principle. When two particles become entangled, their states are linked, no matter how far apart they are. Change one, and the other reacts instantly, even if they're separated by light years. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance. Now, apply this concept to yourself. What if your present self and your future self are entangled? Actions you take today ripple instantly into your future reality, and signals from your future could echo backward to you now. This would explain why sometimes you get a strong sense of, I shouldn't do this, or I should absolutely take this chance. As if your future self already knows the outcome and is guiding you toward it. Psychologically, this aligns with how people experience intuition. Spiritually, it aligns with the idea of destiny and divine timing. Scientifically, while we don't yet know if entanglement works across time the way it does across space, the metaphor helps us bridge science and spirituality in a way that audiences find both credible and exciting. This section builds credibility by showing that even the most respected physicists admit the quantum world challenges our understanding of time and space. At this point, it's essential to address the bridge between hard science and spirituality. Critics argue that spiritual teachers often misuse quantum language, but for audiences drawn to mystery and meaning, the overlap feels real. The quantum world already behaves in ways that contradict our daily experience. Why shouldn't it also explain the signals we feel but cannot measure? This is where framing is crucial. We are not claiming physics has proven that your future self is calling. Instead, we're highlighting how the metaphors of quantum science mirror the lived experiences of millions of people who sense intuition, synchronicity, or higher guidance. By weaving science with spirituality, we create a narrative that is both credible and inspiring. Audiences resonate because this balance gives them permission to believe in something greater without feeling irrational. They can say, even science admits the universe is stranger than we think, so maybe my experiences are valid. This final section prepares the audience for the emotional depth of the next chapter, where we'll explore time as an illusion and how your consciousness may be traveling between past, present, and future. Chapter 3. Time is an illusion meeting your future self. Most of us think of time as a straight line, past, present, future. We are born, we grow, we live, and eventually we die. This linear perspective has been reinforced by science, clocks, calendars, and our daily routines. But is this the only way to understand time? Einstein's theory of relativity suggests that time is not constant. It bends, stretches, and even slows down depending on speed and gravity. A person traveling near the speed of light would experience time very differently from someone standing still. In other words, time is not absolute, it's relative. This opens the door to the possibility that our future and past are not as fixed as we believe. Instead of a straight line, imagine time as a spiral or a layered fabric. Your past, present, and future might all be happening simultaneously, only separated by perception. When you experience déjà vu, a strange coincidence, or a dream that comes true, you are briefly stepping outside the linear trap. You're glimpsing the fabric of time in its truer, multidimensional form. Long before modern physics, ancient cultures understood time differently. Hindus spoke of yugas, great cycles of time repeating endlessly. The Mayans designed calendars that tracked cycles beyond human lifespans. Indigenous traditions often describe time as circular, where endings are beginnings and beginnings are endings. These perspectives align more closely with what quantum physics suggests today, that time may be an illusion created by human perception. In spiritual traditions, the future self is not ahead of you in a timeline. It's beside you, coexisting in another layer of reality. When shamans spoke of traveling to meet ancestors or gods in visions, perhaps they were accessing alternate points in this timeless fabric. Similarly, meditation, rituals, and altered states of consciousness might thin the veil between now and later, allowing communication across what we mistakenly call time. This resonance between science and ancient wisdom strengthens the idea that your future self already exists, waiting for you to connect. Dreams have long been portals where people encounter knowledge they shouldn't yet have. How many times have you dreamt of something trivial? A place, a person, or a conversation, only to live it later? While skeptics dismiss this as coincidence, a timeless perspective suggests your dream self is tuning into another moment of reality. Meditation works similarly. When the mind grows still, you slip out of the linear rush of daily life. Many practitioners report meeting versions of themselves, older, wiser, calmer, who offer guidance. Is this imagination, or is it consciousness momentarily stepping into another dimension where your future self exists? Even modern psychology experiments have shown that visualization can shape reality. Athletes who mentally rehearse an event often perform just as well as those who physically practice. Could it be that they are literally tapping into the timeline where success already happened and pulling it into their present? This suggests a practical pathway. Through dreams, meditation, or intentional visualization, you can meet your future self and receive signals about the right direction for your life. Once you accept time as an illusion, life changes dramatically. You stop seeing yourself as trapped in fate, moving helplessly toward an unknown future. Instead, you realize you are navigating a multidimensional map of possibilities. Every choice you make opens one door and closes another, but all doors exist simultaneously. This means your future self is not distant. It's a vibration away. By tuning your awareness, you can align with the timeline that serves your highest good. Living this way brings peace. When setbacks happen, you no longer panic because you know other timelines exist. When opportunities arise, you seize them, knowing your future self may be signaling you to act. Life becomes less about control and more about alignment. In this sense, the illusion of time becomes a gift. It forces us to live in the present moment, the only place where all versions of our future can be chosen. To meet your future self, you don't need a time machine. You need awareness, openness, and courage to trust the signals you already receive. Chapter 4: Recognizing the Signals from the Future. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung coined the term synchronicity to describe meaningful coincidences, moments when the universe seems to whisper in perfect timing. For example, you think of an old friend and they suddenly call. Or you stumble upon a book that answers a question you were silently struggling with. Skeptics often call this chance. But when synchronicities cluster and repeat, they suggest a deeper pattern. Your future self nudging you through subtle signals. Synchronicities are not random. They are like quantum ripples moving backward through time, intersecting with your present. Imagine throwing a stone into a lake. The ripples expand outward. Your future choices create ripples too, sometimes reaching backward to guide you. Learning to notice synchronicity requires attention. Most people dismiss it as coincidence, but the awakened mind sees synchronicity as the language of time itself, a form of communication between who you are and who you are becoming. When you pay attention, these signals grow louder, like tuning into the right radio frequency. Everyone has experienced déjà vu, the eerie sensation that you have lived this moment before. Scientists explain it as a brain glitch. But what if déjà vu is evidence of parallel timelines colliding? From the timeless perspective, your consciousness may already have lived through this moment in another branch of reality. Déjà vu happens when that memory bleeds into your present awareness. It's not error, it's signal. Some researchers studying time perception note that déjà vu often occurs during important or transitional moments. This suggests it may serve as a subtle alert. Pay attention, this moment matters. Your future self could be using déjà vu as a checkpoint, ensuring you are on the right path. If you ignore it, you may feel a hollow unease. But if you pause, breathe, and reflect on what's unfolding, you might discover insight or opportunity hiding beneath the surface. Next time déjà vu strikes, treat it as a sacred pause. Ask yourself, what is my future self trying to tell me right now? Dreams are another portal for future signals. People across history, from Abraham Lincoln dreaming of his own death to scientists like Kekulé dreaming of chemical structures, have received future-shaping knowledge while asleep. Your dreaming mind is not bound by time. It drifts freely, weaving past, present, and future into strange narratives. Some dreams are nonsense, but others carry unmistakable clarity. These are future signals disguised in symbolic form. Intuition works the same way while awake. A sudden gut feeling to take a different road, speak to a stranger, or decline an offer often seems irrational. Yet when followed, it leads to remarkable outcomes. This inner GPS may be your future self sending guidance through emotional resonance. Unlike logic, which moves step by step, intuition jumps across timelines, collapsing possibilities into a knowing. To sharpen this skill, you must practice listening. Keep a dream journal. Meditate daily. Ask your inner voice direct questions and note the first impressions, no matter how subtle. Over time, you'll notice a pattern. Your future self communicates through symbols, feelings, and quiet nudges more often than through loud announcements. Signals from the future often hide in plain sight. Repeated numbers, 1111, 333, 777, recurring animals, or phrases that appear everywhere you look. Many dismiss these as superstition. But consider, in a universe where everything is vibration, repeating patterns may be resonance points between timelines. The number 1111, for example, is reported by millions as a moment of alignment. Some interpret it as angels, others as cosmic codes. But from a quantum view, it might be your future self choosing a subtle yet universal marker to grab your attention. Wake up, you're exactly where you need to be. Even mirrors in daily life. Meeting someone who shares your exact birthday, or hearing the same phrase from unrelated people in the same week, are not random. These are reflections, hints from the quantum mirror of reality. The challenge is not whether signals exist, it is whether you are awake enough to notice. Your future self speaks through synchronicity, déjà vu, dreams, intuition, and patterns. The question is, are you listening? Chapter 5, The Science of Retrocausality. Can the future affect the past? We have been taught since childhood that time is a straight arrow. Past, present, future. You cannot unspill milk. You cannot unburn a match. But physics, especially at the quantum level, tells a stranger story. The second law of thermodynamics says entropy always increases. Things move toward disorder. This law explains why time feels one-directional. But in quantum mechanics, equations are time-symmetric. They don't care whether time runs forward or backward. That means at the fundamental level, nothing prevents the future from influencing the past. This concept is called retrocausality. Imagine watching a movie of billiard balls colliding. If you played the video backward, the laws of physics would still make sense. Only when you zoom out to human scale, spilled coffee, broken glasses, does time appear irreversible. Retrocausality invites us to ask, what if time's arrow is a perception, not a prison? If so, your future decisions might ripple backward, shaping the events that lead you there. The most famous example is the delayed choice experiment, first proposed by physicist John Wheeler. In this test, particles of light, photons, are sent through a setup where they can behave either like waves or particles. Here's the twist. Scientists can decide after the photon has already passed through the setup how to measure it. Astonishingly, the photon seems to know in advance what choice will be made and adjusts its past behavior accordingly. Even stranger is the quantum eraser experiment. When information about a particle's path is erased after it has traveled, the interference pattern changes retroactively, as if the future decision rewrote the past. These aren't fringe studies. They're published, peer-reviewed, and repeatedly confirmed. They suggest time doesn't flow the way we think. At the quantum level, the future and past are entangled, constantly influencing each other. When you recall a déjà vu or synchronicity, you might be experiencing a macro version of this principle, your future aligning your present. Here's where science gets truly mind-bending. Some physicists believe consciousness itself might exploit retrocausality. Research by Dr. Helmut Schmidt in the 1970s tested whether humans could influence random events after they occurred. Participants attempted to will certain outcomes on pre-recorded random sequences. Strangely, statistical analysis suggested that intentions influenced the data, even though the events had already been locked in. Modern parapsychology experiments, such as those at Princeton's Pear Lab, also hint at retroactive influence, where people's minds appear to shape events backward in time. Another line of thought comes from neuroscientist Benjamin Libet, who discovered that brain activity predicting a decision occurs milliseconds before people consciously choose. Some interpret this to mean that consciousness might not be bound by the present moment. It could be tapping into the near future and feeding the signal back. If true, your intuition is not just a guess. It's literally your future self whispering back into your now. If the future can shape the past, everything we believe about free will, destiny, and responsibility changes. It suggests that your life is not just a chain of causes leading forward. It's a loop, with your future self shaping the path that leads you there. Fate and free will are not opposites but partners. Your free choices in the future generate signals that ripple back, nudging your present self toward alignment. This also reframes spiritual teachings. When ancient mystics spoke of all time being one or the eternal now, they may have been intuitively describing retrocausality. Practically, this means your visions, dreams, and synchronicities are not hallucinations. They are feedback loops from your own timeline. The science is still young, but the door is open. We are just beginning to grasp that time is not a straight road. It is a field of possibilities where past and future constantly dance. And you are the dancer. Chapter 6, Conversations with Your Future Self, Techniques to Connect. Imagine being able to receive direct guidance from someone who knows every choice you'll ever make, every mistake, every triumph, because they've already lived it. That person is your future self. Psychologists like Hal Hershfield at UCLA have shown that when people vividly imagine their future selves, they make smarter choices today, saving more money, improving health, and reducing procrastination. Why? Because the brain treats the future self like a stranger. Once you make that stranger familiar, your decisions naturally align with long-term success. But this goes beyond psychology. If retrocausality is real, then your future self is already whispering to you through intuition, dreams, and synchronicities. The question is not whether you can connect. The question is whether you can quiet the noise enough to hear them clearly. This chapter gives you practical techniques, mental, emotional, and even experimental, that help tune your inner radio to the frequency of your own future. Meditation is the oldest and most reliable tool for bending time perception. In deep stillness, the mind is freed from the constant chatter of past memories and future worries. That silence creates a space where signals from beyond the present moment can surface. Exercise, the future self meditation. Find a quiet space, sit comfortably, and close your eyes. Take 10 deep breaths, slowing your body into calmness. Visualize a path stretching ahead of you, shimmering, infinite. At the end of this path, imagine a glowing figure, your future self. Approach them. Notice what they look like, their posture, expression, clothing. Ask them a question. What do I need to know right now? Wait, instead of forcing an answer, allow images, feelings, or whispers to rise. Do not worry if the response feels faint. Subtlety is the language of the future. Keep practicing and clarity grows. Scientific studies show meditation alters brainwave patterns, increasing alpha and theta waves, the same frequencies associated with intuition and creativity. In this state, the barrier between present and future seems to thin, making communication possible. Writing is a powerful bridge between now and tomorrow. When you write letters to your future self or receive imagined letters from them, you activate both hemispheres of the brain, blending logic with imagination. Exercise, the two-way journal. On the left side of a notebook, write from your present self, your struggles, questions, and confusions. On the right side, write responses as if your future self were answering. Let intuition guide the words. Don't overthink. Example, present self, I feel lost in my career. I don't know what path to take. Future self, relax. You are not behind. The connections you're making now are seeds. You'll see them bloom in 2 years. This may feel like imagination at first, but over time, responses begin to surprise you. Many people report their future letters later proving accurate. Why? Because the unconscious mind holds patterns invisible to daily awareness. And when you project forward, you access hidden wisdom, possibly even retrocausal signals. Try sealing a letter addressed to yourself 1 year in the future. When you open it later, the accuracy of your predictions and insights will astonish you. Dreams are one of the most direct portals to your future self. Countless innovators, Nikola Tesla, Carl Jung, even Abraham Lincoln, reported dreams that foretold future events. In dreams, time seems nonlinear, allowing fragments of the future to leak in. Dream work method. Keep a notebook by your bed. Before sleeping, set an intention. Future self, show me what I need to know. On waking, immediately write down any dream fragments, symbols, feelings, words. Look for recurring patterns over weeks. They often reveal guidance. Visualization technique. Create a mental movie of your life 5 years from now. Where you live, who surrounds you, what you've achieved. Replay this daily. Over time, your brain begins aligning behavior to match this future memory. Anchors in daily life. Place physical reminders of your future self around you. A vision board, a key symbol, or even a ring you wear. Each glance reminds you to align with that timeline. When you combine meditation, journaling, dreams, and visualization, you create multiple channels to hear the call from your future self. The more channels you open, the louder the message becomes. Chapter 7. Psychological Triggers. Why you feel called. Human beings are meaning-making creatures. Our brains are not passive receivers of information. They are highly active interpreters. Every day, the subconscious mind is bombarded with millions of signals, most of which never rise to conscious awareness. But when something unusual breaks through, a repeating number on the clock, a dream that feels oddly vivid, or a coincidence that connects perfectly to our current life situation, the subconscious mind pulls it into the spotlight. Psychologists call this pattern recognition bias. We are wired to detect connections because, evolutionarily, those who saw patterns in their environment survived. For instance, recognizing the pattern of footprints leading to water or hearing repeated bird calls warning of a predator kept our ancestors alive. Today, that same mechanism translates into a tendency to notice when events feel interconnected. When people report signals from their future self, what's happening internally is that the subconscious mind is flagging an anomaly, something that feels meaningful but can't be explained by random chance alone. This pull often creates a sensation in the body, A chill, a gut instinct, or an intuitive whisper? Neurologically, the brain's default mode network, DMN, the system active when we daydream or imagine, plays a major role here. When activated, it blends memories of the past with projections of the future, essentially simulating possibilities. If the DMN generates a vivid mental image of your future self, the subconscious may treat it not as imagination, but as a real connection trying to get your attention. This is why so many people describe these moments as otherworldly, not because they are disconnected from psychology, but because the brain itself blurs the line between inner and outer reality. The subconscious pull is the bridge, guiding you to interpret a signal as a personal message from beyond. Modern life has given rise to a powerful psychological driver, fear of missing out or FOMO. It usually refers to missing social opportunities, but in the realm of spirituality and self-discovery, FOMO applies to destiny itself. When someone encounters a strange signal, whether a dream, synchronicity, or gut instinct, there's a fear that ignoring it could mean losing alignment with their life's true path. This is why even skeptical individuals often pause when confronted with signs. Deep down, there's a quiet worry. What if this is important? What if my future depends on paying attention? This fear can amplify the emotional impact of any signal. If you see repeating numbers like 1111, the rational mind might shrug it off. But the psychological undercurrent whispers, what if this is the universe nudging you? That whisper quickly transforms curiosity into urgency. Interestingly, studies in cognitive psychology show that when people are uncertain about the future, their brains become more sensitive to symbolic information. The less control we feel, the more we search for hidden meaning. In times of personal crisis, career changes, or emotional upheaval, people report more synchronicities. Why? Because the mind is actively scanning for guidance to ease uncertainty. This creates a feedback loop. The more uncertain you feel, the more you notice signals. The more signals you notice, the more you worry about missing them. Soon, even a mundane coincidence feels charged with cosmic importance. And so, the FOMO on destiny takes root. Rather than missing out on a party or an opportunity, people fear missing out on their calling. This psychological trigger makes signals from the future self almost impossible to ignore, because deep down, nobody wants to believe they turned away from their one chance at destiny. Psychology doesn't exist in isolation. It's intertwined with culture, mythology, and the symbols humanity has carried for centuries. Swiss psychologist Carl Jung introduced the idea of archetypes, universal images and themes embedded in the collective unconscious. These archetypes surface in myths, dreams, and spiritual experiences across every culture. When people describe contact with their future self, their stories often echo archetypal roles. The guide who provides wisdom, the messenger who brings urgent news, the higher self, a perfected version of who we could become. These archetypes aren't random. They act as psychological shortcuts, allowing the mind to represent deep, abstract truths in a form we can recognize. When someone dreams of their older self offering advice, it fits perfectly within the archetype of the wise mentor. When they feel like a voice within is urging them toward change, it mirrors the archetype of the inner sage. Archetypes also provide shared meaning across individuals. A person in India, one in Europe, and another in South America may all experience dreams of being guided by a glowing figure. Though culturally different, the archetype remains universal. This suggests that the sense of a future self calling may be less about an isolated event and more about tapping into a collective memory of guidance. For believers in reincarnation or quantum timelines, archetypes could represent the psychological language through which the future communicates with the present. The mind, unable to grasp the raw complexity of time and consciousness, translates the experience into familiar forms. Thus, when you feel called, it may not be random imagination. It may be your psyche using the oldest symbolic system known to humanity. One of the most fascinating and dangerous psychological triggers behind feeling called lies in the brain's reward system. Neuroscience shows that every time we experience something novel, especially something that feels significant, the brain releases dopamine. This neurotransmitter creates a rush of pleasure, curiosity, and motivation. Now imagine you notice a synchronicity. You think of an old friend, and they suddenly call you. Your brain lights up with dopamine. The coincidence feels thrilling, even magical. Next time, you start looking for more connections. And the more you notice, the more dopamine you get. This is the beginning of the dopamine loop of mystical signals. This loop reinforces itself. The brain begins to crave the sense of mystery and guidance. Soon, every signal feels magnified. A song on the radio seems to speak directly to you. A stranger's comment feels like a secret code. Each time, the reward system fires, and the belief in a calling deepens. From a scientific perspective, this loop is indistinguishable from habit formation. Just as a gambler becomes addicted to the unpredictability of slot machines, a seeker becomes addicted to the unpredictability of synchronicities. The brain loves the thrill of, maybe this one is a sign. But here's where it gets profound. Unlike gambling, this loop can also be positive. Instead of destructive behavior, it can reinforce growth, intuition, and mindfulness. When guided with awareness, the dopamine loop pushes people to seek meaning, reflect on their choices, and move toward a better version of themselves. This explains why signals from the future self are so compelling. They are not just intellectual curiosities, they are emotionally addictive. The brain rewards you for noticing them, ensuring you'll continue paying attention. For many, this is the exact mechanism that transforms a single strange coincidence into a lifelong belief that their future self is truly calling. We've now uncovered the psychological mechanics behind why signals feel impossible to ignore. The subconscious pull, the fear of missing out on destiny, the power of archetypes, and the dopamine loop. But psychology only explains why we notice. It doesn't answer the next big question. How can we know whether these signals are imagination or genuine guidance?